So here we are. Now, part of our deal is that when we decided to do something to help others, we kind of looked at our skills and talents and thought, well, we could use design or media somehow to help others. So we developed Need magazine. And part of the process in using design is, what's the problem? What's a problem that we can solve? And we saw a real lack of hopeful stories within the media. So we figured that we would develop a platform, a media platform, to tell those stories. And now it's Kelly's turn.
Well, and once we knew what the goal was, we could start developing and building the brand and our identity. Our identity was based on what we thought about need. What is need? Need exists when something is missing. So that was the basis for our logo. And from there, we connected with the creative minds at Fusion Hill to start building up our style guide. And with the style guide in place, we could start working on some of the stories. And we actually take a very simple, low-tech, hands-on approach when we start our stories. It's cut paper. We want to get a true sensation, true feel for the story, and have the ability to manipulate it so that it can tell the story as best possible. We also then, from our storyboards, we put them up on our magnetic wall so we can make sure that the flow of the story is going the way that we need it to be. That continues to grow. With this next slide, you'll see that we also put out the layout of the design. You know, once the layout is in its first stage, we put that up on the wall and make sure that the graphics are also assisting with the storytelling, and also gives us the possibility of looking at the magazine in a way no one else does, as a whole.
And so when we were developing the concept for the magazine, we thought, what are some of the things that we really want to see? We wanted to see imagery being used as the main storytelling tool, because an image can tell a story so much better than our words can. And also we wanted to show people with dignity and respect. And so these are some of the principles that we used in developing the magazine. And then this is one of our favorite photos, the little boy with the glasses. We love him. But we wanted to show people as real people, no matter if they're living in poverty or on less than $1 a day. They're just like us. I mean, everybody is really just like us. They want nothing more than the opportunity to have the better life. But again, here's another example of an image telling a much better story than we could. This larger picture is of a school at a refugee camp. Now, every student gets a rock. So that's pretty much their school facilities. And we can describe this using words, but it's kind of irrelevant. But sometimes we have to break our own design rules if the story dictates it. This is a story about unique gift giving over the holiday season, and we had to tell many, many different stories and many different products in one short story. So we kind of broke some of our design rules, and were able to tell that story really effectively. This story is about female deminers in Cambodia, and they're really brave, cool ladies, and we wanted to be able to tell personal stories about them without incorporating it into the body text. So here again, we had the opportunity to tell personal stories of these brave women using just a little bit of design difference with arrows and a different color for their own personal stories, so we could separate it out from the body text. And so it really helps the reader to be able to know what they're supposed to be reading about and what's different from body text. Now, these things are kind of boring to think about in a sense, but we really have to. Another thing here is we don't usually use any type of graphics. It's just imagery and text. But here we wanted to show how many refugee camps are in Darfur and Chad. And we could most easily do that with a little map and a little graph. And here each dot represents a refugee camp. Here's another great image of a child that's blind, and she's an orphan in China. We love this image so much. And this is another example of showing the humanity that people have, and showing that this little girl is just like any other little girl, whether she's an orphan or whether she's blind. And here we have it in the layout itself with very minimal text, but also part of our design process is that we have the contact information for any aid organization that we refer to at the end of the story, so that if you're inspired, you can contact them directly and you can help them. Here's another situation where the image really tells the story much better than we can. I can rattle off statistics about clean water and the water crisis around the world, but you're not really going to get that human element until you see people pouring their buckets into nasty water that they're going to go home and drink. And so the image does much better at that. Here's another time that we kind of broke the rules. We used some children's drawings that were in a rehab center that helps children in northern Uganda who had been affected by the war, and most of them are former child soldiers. So we had some of their drawings that we scanned and put into the layout. This is one boy's personal story, and this is another example of breaking our own rules, where we kind of use the border around the image to really highlight him and his story. But also in the editing process, we have to edit sometimes these stories down so much to make them palatable for readers that they're very different than the original story. Now this is Harris, and Harris has a huge benign tumor growing out of his mouth. Now, and to just show this picture, everybody thinks, oh, gross, oh, that's horrible. And it doesn't really show Harris's whole story. It doesn't really show Harris as a human. So we looked at the story and we decided that in order to tell the full story, we really had to show them side by side, the before and after picture. And he received a free surgery on a mercy ship, which saved his life. But also, because the subject matter is so difficult, we knew that the text had to be really small to keep the reader on that spread and to get the reader to actually follow through with the story. And that's our story. Oh, by the way, I'll get a free copy of Need magazine upstairs.